Hello, and welcome to Season 7 of the FODcast, the podcast focused on the future of digital commerce hosted by Simply Commerce. Season 7 promises to continue to bring you some of the industry's brightest minds across the globe as we unpick the sector and where it's heading. From war stories to strategy and technology deep dives to future trends, we cover it all as we continue our journey to have one of the most popular podcasts in commerce. Before we start, if you enjoy our content, please do hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on, like and share on socials.
Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm very excited to have Erica join us from Voyado. Erica, I would attempt your surname, but I don't think I do the best job of it. So why don't you do it for me and let everyone know your full name?
Yeah, okay. I'll help you. So it's Erica Sandelin Ekelund.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you did it because I think I'd probably fall down with that one. For our listeners meeting you for the first time, it would be good to understand your role at Voyado and also what has brought you on this journey to where you are now.
Yeah. So I'm the CEO currently at Voyado. Previously, I was the CFO. And I actually joined Voyado as an investor. So back in 2017, I worked within private equity. And stumbled upon Voyado, got super interested, trying to really convince the founders that they should take me in as an investor. So did that in 2018 because it took a year to convince them. So started then as a board member, and then they convinced me to join operationally. So started as a CFO. The company didn't really know what a CFO was, so we built that role together, and then becoming a CEO as of last year.
Okay, that's an unusual path to take. And what was it that made you want to switch from being fully involved in the investing side to actually being operationally in charge of running Voyado?
So I think like it was really the people, and also obviously the product. I fell in love with the product the first time I saw it, when they demoed the product. But then once I got to know and learn more about the company, it was really the people. And that's really still also why I took on the role as a CEO, because we have amazing culture and amazing people at Voyado that are customer obsessed. And it's an honor to be working with all Voyadoers.
Good. So, for listeners new to Voyado, you said if you fell in love with the product, what problems did the company set out to solve from day one with the product?
So we focus a lot around loyalty. So we are trying to make it easier for retailers to have consumers falling in love with their brand and the products and the services that they're offering. So, if I was to describe Voyado, especially back then, in with one word, it is loyalty. So we help retailers making their consumers become truly fans to their brands.
Okay. And that's a hot topic right now. It's something that I have posted about a few times, and it's a conversation that is being had with retailers, agencies, vendors, everyone that I'm speaking to at the moment. So we'll come on to that more. But in your view, how has the definition of a physical goods retailer evolved in the past kind of 4 or 5 years?
So I think I think if we take a step back, I think a lot of people have been afraid that and also are afraid now that the shopping experience is now going to completely change, and also back like 10 years ago when e-com like came across and really boomed. But I think what's really still important is to make your consumer retailers mission is really to inspire your consumers with great product and great services, and that hasn't changed even if it is on a physical world or if it is on a digital world. The real purpose for a retailer is to serve the consumers with great product and great services.
Okay. So in one sentence, if you can, over the next hour, what do you think is the main thing that the audience is going to learn from our conversation today?
I think they will understand the importance of creating long-lasting customer relationship with the consumers.
Okay. So if we move on to a bit more detail then about Voyado and the strategy. So you guys have made a deliberate choice to serve retailers with real physical inventory. Why would you not want to go further afield and chase other sectors?
I think there are a lot of great company out there, and everyone knows that there are global giants out there that have tons, like so much more resources in terms of R&D and in terms of go to market. So we decided early on, in order to beat these global giants, we need to focus. And that is really the secret sauce of Voyado, is the focus of products and the focus of sector. We would never been able to compete with these global giants if we were scattered and tried to do and build the best product and also services for different types of industries and verticals. We have seen companies within our size that has tried and their product becomes too spread, like they're spreading themselves too thin, which is actually hurting them. And which you can see in the churn numbers. We have an extremely low churn of a couple of percentage points, and we have really happy customers because they know that we're going to stay true to what they are delivering and to them, to retailers. So I think that the secret sauce for us has really been the focus.
Okay. So it's the inch wide, mile deep. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I understand. And is it only B2C, or are you looking across the B2B and D2C channels?
So currently we are only focusing on companies that are selling a physical good to a consumer. So it is B2C.
Okay. And is that something you think might change over time? Because there is a lot of parity between the B2C journey and the B2B journey. There are some nuances, but they're actually fundamentally doing a very similar thing.
Yeah, no, but absolutely, you're completely right. We have looked into serving the B2B market as well, who are selling a physical good. It's not that far away to what we're doing right now, but instead we have decided, we have some customers who actually are B2B, but it's just a few. We really want to succeed in what we're doing, and instead of broadening the product even further, we're trying to do more stuff within our product to retailers. So instead of going to new vertical, we launch new products. Like for example, retail media. That's a completely new product, but within our space, and also really appreciated by the retail customers. So that's the decision we've done.
Okay. And what, in your view, is likely to break when a platform tries to straddle the whole physical and digital piece? As you see customers you take on from other clients, is there anything that you regularly see?
Yeah, I think as we see different stuff, but I think one thing that we see is that retailers that come from other type of platforms have not been able to get a 360 view of the end consumers. So for example, if you start, Tim, Googling on you're trying to buy a sofa. So you get into a website, you get super inspired, but then you actually close the computer, go to sleep, and then the next day you go into the physical store and buy a sofa. Obviously, you've done with that transaction. You should not get advertising on that sofa. You should get it on side tables. And a lot of retailers are actually struggling to get that 360 view of the end consumer. And that's a problem that we are solving. And it is quite difficult to get the full 360 view of understanding where the consumer starts and ends its customer journey. So those are some of the pain points that we see that retailers today, 2025, are still struggling with.
Okay. And just for the audience, what exactly do you mean by a 360 view?
No, it's really understanding independently where the consumer starts its journey or ends its journey. A system like Voyado should understand that, and it should understand who you are, and also understand if the retailer want to communicate with you, understand who you are, what have you purchased before, what would you most likely want to purchase in the future. So really understanding everything about the consumer, and to be frank, I like to call, like, if you have loyal customer, they are your fan club. So understanding everything about your fan club and staying true to them, and giving them a promise that you can deliver upon.
Okay. That kind of leads me nicely into my next question, which is to get a bit of a walkthrough from you on how the CRM, point of sale, marketing data come together inside Voyado to help give the 360 view.
Yeah, so it also depends, I would say, on jurisdictions. Because in Sweden, for example, if you're using Voyado, you can buy data so you understand where you live, if you have kids, if you're moving, and then if you can merge that with all the data on your purchase history, then you really get a good view. And I think loyalty is so much more than just collecting points. For example, we have a retailer who's selling jeans. It's all about understanding and being offering to repair jeans, for example, or if you do recycling. So I think what's different to us, if you compare to other more of a CXP vendors, is really understanding how to work with loyalty, and not only thinking about its points or different levels. It could be challenges, interactions in different kind of ways. So I think that's really where we stand out, because since we worked with retailer for so long, we know and we can help customers in not just setting up the CRM strategy, but also how to execute it, and how to get consumers really loving your brand.
Okay. And it's also coming to the table with ideas, right?
Yeah.
So as an example, I saw a post yesterday. I think it was JD Sports. They have the crepe stand, the shoe protection stuff.
Mm?
They've got a whole stand. I think it's JD, I might be wrong, but they've got a whole stand there where you can buy the product, but also you have staff that are now offering a cleaning service for the trainers. So you drop your trainers off and you come back in 2 or 3 days and they've cleaned them up for you. And that's the kind of thing I think that you're getting at, right? Is other ways to keep customers loyal and wanting to come back to that brand.
Exactly. It could be like, hey, I see that you just bought a pair of shoes or a coat. This is like the washing instructions to take really care of your new jacket that we hope that you're gonna love forever and ever. And obviously that type of communication, you're more likely to open that and actually read it and get connected to the brand than if you just get an email, 10% discount on your next purchase. So having that type of interaction creates loyalty to the brands.
So, and why is it so hard then for so many multi-store retailers to get this right?
Because I think they, for like one example is that a lot of brands and retailers are just sending out the same message to everyone. Like for example, if you would get an email with, yeah, you get a great deal on stockings or leggings or whatever, which is probably not something you wouldn't buy to yourself.
Mhm.
But not understanding who you are sending out at what time with what type of message. A lot of retailers are just sending out the same message to everyone, and you don't really feel special if you get that type of communication, and also not understanding that everyone don't get triggered by discounts. They want to feel special in other ways, and that's not only discounts.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that actually recently, is that I think certain age groups want discounts more than others. And I think as you get a bit older, you're looking for not the cheapest thing, but potentially the most reliable thing when you're looking at your purchases. So yeah, that's about data and knowing the consumer. In terms of the UK, we've got quite stringent GDPR rules, and there's the opt-in, opt-out for cookies and whatnot. So that must be making this whole process a little bit harder for you guys and for the end client.
No, I would say the other way, because see, we are a Swedish company, so we're run by the same regulations as UK. So we are like our DNA is within GDPR. So actually, when you're using a system like Voyado, you're asking of a consent because when you're buying something, there is a consent where you need to tick in, I am okay to get this type of advertising. So I think a lot of retailers understood that they need to use a service like Voyado because that's the only way you can get consent.
Okay.
So a lot of companies and retailers, but companies overall are looking, how can I use zero first party data because of the cookie death. So like if you look at our product, we have Voyado Engage, and that's the CRM that we have been talking about, the loyalty. Then we have our other product, which is product and discovery on site. So everything you see on site when you search for a blue jeans jacket or when you navigate on a site. If you can use all the data that we have from our CRM system, and then you know that now Tim is coming into the site because you clicked on an email, I know you are coming in on the site, then I know Tim is never buying on discount, you're never returning anything, you're a true lovely fan, hence I'm going to show these types of product. Or we have Erica coming in, she's always buying on discount and returning the majority of the stuff that she's bought. She's going to get this type of product because she's not a profitable customer. So if you can adapt your site based on everything you know about the end consumer, that makes much more of a profitable growth for the retailers.
Yeah, and it will allow that smooth transition from offline to online. The consumer ideally won't notice.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk more about that shortly. I want to ask, what is the most, with all the data you've got, what's the most surprising loyalty-driven behavior that you've noticed?
Oh, that is a good question. So every year we launch a retail radar where we look at all the data that we have, and we do see some trends in between females and males. And to be honest, now nothing really surprised me, but it's all about how actually men are overall better consumers because they go in, they purchase, and they leave. So I would say in many ways. Male consumers or shoppers are better to target because they're much easier and easier consumers.
Okay, yeah, no, I would agree with that. I just want to go in, grab the thing, and come back out again.
Yeah,
No,
exactly, and not bother to return it.
no, absolutely. Even if it doesn't quite fit, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys spot churn risk before customers do?
Oh, you mean from a consumer perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not our churn. So you can see that on how often do a consumer open emails or when did they shop last? So we're trying to help our customers, retailers, to set up and trigger flows on, okay, we're missing you because we haven't heard from you in a while. You last time when you visit us, you looked at these. Now you're probably interested in that. So we try to help our customers based on like trigger events and how we see that consumer, how easy and when should you try to communicate certain things to get them back.
The trigger events around engagement, and are they still engaged based on the data you have, or are they not? And do we need to work out a different way to try and engage them and bring them back?
Yes, exactly. And I think now with everything that is around AI, I think using AI within Voyado Engage will help a lot because you can use AI in our tool both as a senior CRM strategy person, but then doing hands-on work. So getting advice from AI saying, okay, you should trigger this type of flow and this type of communication to people that have not shopped with you for a long while. And this is how you set up the events. So I think there will be a lot of stuff helping and making it easier for the CRM managers at the retailers with using AI within Voyado.
Okay, that makes sense. And we also, before we got on this call, we had a conversation and we talked around the shift away from enterprise platforms. So when a client, a retailer comes to you and says, our platform is slow, it's heavy, it's not really delivering what we need. What are they actually saying to you? What do you take from that?
Mostly they're saying, hey, I bought this fancy platform. It promised me to do everything. It most likely can do everything, but it's so custom built and it's so hard to understand. So every time they want to send out a campaign or an email, they need to call their IT consultant. So the total contract value actually becomes really expensive. So they have a team in place, but the team can't do anything because they need to call their external IT consultants because it's so hard for them to work with the system. So they are really looking for a system which is a bit more modern, like Voyado, but is also easy to use. And then going back to your question about why focusing on retail. So we have built a product with all our experience on retail, understanding the pain points for the retailers and for the people actually working within the systems. So that's why we get really good cred from customers who are actually using the system. It's very easy to understand how to use a product. You don't have to be Einstein.
So on that note, then tell us about a brand, if you can, that made the switch and saw the tangible results really quickly.
We have all the examples from customers who are starting using our Elevate product. So that's a search and recommendation platform. They've seen a huge uplift in conversion without actually increasing the demand for. So it's really about using the platform in the right way could actually give great result in increasing your conversion on site.
Yeah.
And then in terms of engage, I think people have, when they start using Engage the right way and understanding how to use the CRM strategy, they have seen an uplift in, for example, how to increase the database and the fan club. That could be one example, but it also can be having the right CRM strategy. So you're targeting the right customer with the right message, and that it actually increase the sales.
Interestingly, is there a scenario then based on where we are now? And obviously, we rarely hear of SAP Hybris or SFCC implementations, but is there a scenario in your view where a big enterprise stack is the right answer based on where we're at now?
I think if you have endless resources and you don't really care how much it costs, then yes, obviously there are platforms out there, enterprise platforms, where you could get everything you want. With Voyado, we are a product. So we have built a product that we believe is the best product. And hence that's why it's very easy to use. But obviously, if you can spend as much money as you want, and you don't really care that the implementation takes 2 years, then obviously there are good platforms out there. But I think we've seen a shift, not only in retail, but companies are now, they need to show fast ROI and think more about profitability than just not only growth. So profitable growth is much more on everyone's radar. And that's where I think these enterprise products that you mentioned, they are having a hard time.
Yeah. And you said growth is on everyone's radar.
No, I would say that today profit is as equal important. So it's not growth at all cost anymore.
Yeah. Okay. It feels to me, and you may have felt the same, but again, I put a post out yesterday about this, that retailers have kind of put pause on any kind of new development work or investment in technology. And it's stopped them from keeping up with the consumer demand. And to me, from the conversations I have on a daily basis, it feels like that is being reversed slowly now. And a lot of the retailers are understanding that it has to be an ongoing iterative process to stay ahead of what the consumer demand is, really.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think the shift, if you compare to like 5 years ago when it was like best of breed, retailers wanted like the best solution for all the pain points. I think retailers understood it's better to have one provider that could help you with different problems, and that's why how we think about it is that we are trying to broaden our product within our like customer experience platform. So that's why we're building retail media. We're looking at M&As, we're looking at partnership in order to help our customers have one platform instead of having different types of vendors. So I think if you look at the like development department or IT department for a retailer, that has actually decreased, and they want to try to find a solution that is easy to integrate and implement.
Okay. And we've already defined the 360 view. What data signals do you think still aren't being captured very well?
To be honest, I think that a lot of retailers are not working with loyalty the way they should. So I think it's for some, it's really going back to basic,
Yeah.
and just not working with discounts. How should you work with your fan club? More that than trying to become the best at start. Go back to basic and set the CRM strategy and actually invest. A lot of retailers doesn't even invest in CRM team. So when they're starting using a platform like Voyado, like, okay, now we bought the system, it should like work for itself. No, I think you need to set a strategy before you actually buy a tool, because otherwise you just have a really good tool, but not a strategy how to work with it.
Yeah. Understand business problems, create the strategy, then work out the solutions,
Yes.
including the technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot with people, and it amazes me how little it doesn't happen in that order.
Yeah, no, but yeah, and sometimes we talk to customer who are disappointed because they're like, now we bought this system, but we don't have any resources to work with it, and that's the wrong approach.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Um, is there a difference in your view between perhaps a sportswear retailer and a fashion retailer, and how they might you need to use loyalty and how their 360 view of the consumer might be?
Yeah, I think it depends also what type of fashion. If you're really high end, then I think you still need to have a CRM strategy, which when I sometimes talk to companies might be high fashion. They're like, no, we should not use a system like Voyado because we don't want to spam our consumers. But they still need to talk to their consumer. It might be that they are targeting them with like, okay, now we have this uh, new I lost the word in English, but we have new clothing coming in, and you get to see them first before everyone else. It's still about loyalty. So I think you need to have a strategy in place, but I think you need to communicate with your audience, or your consumers differently depending on who you are. And even though if you're selling sports apparel, depending on where you are, if it's more low end or mid end or high end, that really sets the scene on how to communicate, I would say.
It does, and you make the point about communicating with the audience. I always think of Rolls-Royce when I have this kind of conversation because I've never seen an advert for Rolls-Royce. But they released their results a couple of weeks ago and they're doing better than ever. So
Mm.
they're not having problems selling their product. I can only assume I'm obviously not their target audience, right? But they have got a strategy in place where they're very subtly having conversations and engaging with their audience.
Yeah, exactly. And they're probably they're most likely not doing the same way as I don't know, H&M is.
Yeah, yeah, I'd imagine not. Um, who is doing this well? Which retailers are doing this really well in your view at the moment?
Um, Well, I love a customer of ours in the Netherlands who is called Love Stories, and they sell lingeries, and the way they communicate and the way they engage their consumers, I think is impressive, and the way they have developed throughout the Voyage journey is also impressive. They have increased their membership base by over 22%. And the way they speak, depending on where you are in the customer journey and the kind of messages that you get, I think is amazing. And also the engagement around the brands is also fascinating. So that's a small brand who where the e-commerce manager, her name is Claudia, and I always get impressed when I hear her talking about how they work with their fan club.
Interesting. Okay, so what what for me is really interesting to understand is what KPIs really prove to you that the whole online to offline insight is working.
And I think I can't give you one answer. Like for example, we had this Danish fashion brand. They set the strategy and they said we want to sell less on discount. And that was really important for them because of their gross margin and because of how because they didn't want to sell too much on discounts because they were more of a upper and mid segment in terms of pricing point. So I think it goes back to the strategy. So depending what you want to improve on. So it could be an important one could be less items sold on discount. It could be just to increase your average order value. So that's why I don't really can't give you one answer. It really depends on your own strategy. Or it could be just like the first one could be increase your database because a lot of retailers don't really have a database because they've never worked with collecting emails and approvals from the consumers. So that could be the first step, building up a database that you then can communicate with.
Yeah, makes sense. So let me ask a slightly different question. What's the hardest in between touch point to measure?
No, that could probably be having returning customers. Because if you invest so much in getting the consumer to go into your coming into your site, so when they've actually come in and when they've actually done a purchase, make sure that they come back and come back frequently. I would say that that's the hardest because then you build true loyalty if you have consumers just coming back by themselves.
Okay. And when we're talking about growth brands, what daily order volume do you think that the point emails start to creak?
So we always advise our like average customer to send one email a week. Then we have some that sends a lot more, and they've actually proven that that works. But that is our average suggestion to send an email a week to your consumer.
Okay. And the strategy is around different, like we discussed, different ways to engage with them and understanding at what point you think they are in the journey of potentially purchasing whatever product it is that your client's offering.
Yes, exactly. Depending on who you are, where you're born in past. So really understanding what's the next coming intent for the consumer. But we work a lot with text messages, and we see or our customers see that we know that it's much more expensive to send text messages than to send emails, but the conversion from text messages is extremely high. And especially if you want to get consumers into the stores, we've seen that conversion, if you send out the text messages, the conversion to getting people, consumers into the stores is much higher than an email. So I know it's a larger investment, but the retailers who's using the text messages wisely actually see a great result from that.
Okay. And how do you guys keep the user experience simple when there's a huge amount of complexity behind the scenes?
I think we just invest a lot of it into it. We ask our customers both during like when we're building it and as also to get feedback once it's if it's beta or if when it's live. So we put a lot of time and effort in trying to make it as easy as possible. Yes, it is complex and our product is getting broader and broader. But we always try to go back and staying true to what we've said from the beginning, that Voyado should be user friendly. So getting feedback and then actually taking that feedback. And again, if we were to cater different types of industries, I think the feedback would have been a lot broader, and it would be harder to please everyone. So, for example, the way you work with awards or points and the way you work with loyalty is very different depending on sector, and also how you work in a system is different. So I think that also makes it easier for us to have a user-friendly product.
Okay. And we talked previously about some of your clients and potential clients being on smaller, less mature platforms. And we talked about the point at which they need to step up. So what is the point? What would you say is the point where the retailer realizes it's time to graduate effectively? And is there a telltale metric that kind of signals that?
I think like you mean like smaller retailers understand they need to invest more and sort of scale up.
Yeah, they need to scale up. They may be on a platform which is okay, but it's not going to help them increase their GMV, for
Yeah.
example, to the level that they want to.
I think the easiest example is that today there are a lot of retailers that start online. But from my perspective, there are very, very few examples where you can manage that growth being purely online. So eventually, a lot of retailers that started online starts to have physical stores. It can be a showroom, it could be just a couple of stores, but still they start being present both offline and online. And when you do that, that's when retailers understand that the current solution they're using does not cater for being offline and offline. And that's when they understand we need to start looking at a system like Voyado who can help us being on both online and offline.
Yeah, and that's even more important, I think, in the coming years. So I don't know about Sweden, but in the UK, our high streets, a lot of the shops disappeared over the course of the past decade, really. We're starting to see the high street rebuild,
Yeah.
but it's coming back in a different way, and I think what we're going to start to see is companies which have either purely online or predominantly online presence start to have more experienced stores in the high
Yes.
street, because that's what I think we've all realized we actually quite like to go and look at things and touch things and socialize and go for a coffee or a drink or whatever while you're doing it. So that's going to become even more important, I'd imagine, for any retailer.
I think so too. And I think I don't know if you're going to ask that, but how AI is going to affect how it's going to affect retailers. I think even though e-com has existed for a while now, it's not that the physical stores have disappeared. You still want to get inspired. And even though in the future, if we have chatbots making all the purchases for us, we still, I don't think that's going to be the case that it does 100%, because you still want to be inspired. You want to go into a physical store, meet other people, actually being able to get try it on and see it, or being online and scrolling and being inspired online. So I think we're not going to see that disappear in the future either, because I think we as a human being like being inspired either online or offline.
I agree. I agree. I think actually, from a male point of view, AI might be helpful to at least whittle down the options in the shop and go, here are 5 different pairs of shorts. Just have a look at those. Save us having to walk around the shop and have a look.
I agree, but the thing that I might not understand is that, okay, this is how I used to, this is the wardrobe that I used to like, but now I want to try something new. And then it's really hard for an AI to know, is Tim now looking for something new, being inspired of a new type of shorts, or is it the old Tim who wants to get everything, get advice on everything based on everything that he's bought in the past?
Yeah, agreed. Be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of Voyado, Voyado being a beloved partner, we talked about that, didn't we? We talked about that is one of the key strategies for you guys. And the software part is potentially the easy part, obviously people are a little bit harder sometimes to bring on board and take on that journey. How does Voyado bake ongoing enablement into the contract?
No, so I think like taking a step back, a lot of product companies they focus a lot on scalability. So it's all about having the best product, and then you forget about all the services. So we invest a lot in the all the fluffiness around it. So for example, you get this CRM, a customer success partner that really holds your hand, free of charge, helping you with setting the strategy in place and then making sure that you're actually executing on it and following up. If we see KPIs not being performing, we try to help customers in how to improve those. We have a support that has over 99% in CSAT, so customer satisfaction score. So, and I get super happy when I meet customers who are like talking about Malin at the support, or actually naming people in our working within our support or customer success, because they get help that they've never experienced before. So we try to invest a lot in those types of services.
And I think that's really, really positive because I don't think that is necessarily always happening. Uh,
No.
it's nice to have someone to help support you both through the implementation and the ongoing BAU and making sure you're getting the most out of the product. Is there a time when you've rescued a kind of a faltering implementation that you can share and perhaps what you've learned from it?
Mean an implementation that went wrong at Voyado or with someone
No,
else?
with another client that you've had to pick up and carry them through.
Uh, yeah, that happens quite a lot. It happens that, like for example, we have customer who has signed with another vendor and they've never been able to go live.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, now I was going to swear, but I'm not. So they say like, let's leave it at this. Can you help us? I actually am talking to a customer now who is doing a replatforming, and that vendor is not delivering at all. So they're just asking us for help. Now, can you help us? We need to get live. Black Week, as you know, is coming up soon. So everything that is done needs to be done now. So there are a lot of examples when you're just stuck in an implementation, and I think obviously there are a lot of people that you can blame, but I think you need to go back to yourself and say what was the scope of the project. I think a lot of retailers want to do everything, but try to narrow down the scope. What can we go live in now? What is needed now, and then build from that instead of having everything done at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems sensible and makes sense. We touched on AI, and I've got a couple of questions that I would like. We couldn't possibly do a podcast in 2025 and not talk about AI. But from your perspective, there's loads and loads of hype. There's loads of potential ways to leverage AI within retail, and within commerce. But what do you think is actually deployable in the next 6 to 12 months, realistically?
Um, I think a retailer needs to start thinking about, okay, where do I get the greatest ROI, and focus from there. So for example, like Voyado, our product sits on large database, which makes it easy and more natural to actually use the approach of Gen AI. And having that in mind, Gen AI needs to have a lot of data in order to work. So start thinking about which of the products actually is feed, because retailer has a lot of data. So how can I use all that data and then put an AI approach on top of it, and not starting with a workflow which probably doesn't make sense. That doesn't give a lot of ROI. And what do you want to achieve? Do you want to reduce the costs, or do you want to try to increase the revenue, because there are a lot of different use cases depending on what you want to do. I think everyone is just running around and saying we need to work with AI and not really understanding where to focus on. Take a couple of 1 to 5 use cases and try to solve them bit by bit instead of doing it everywhere. But what I'm trying to do at Voyado is really getting everyone to understand that as an employee, taking the advantage if you work for someone who wants to implement AI, because at your next job that will be required. So really taking the chance now to get educated within AI, and if your employer is trying to help you improve there, take that chance.
Yeah, I mean, getting educated in AI, I think, is pretty hard at the moment because it changes so dramatically. But it goes back to the basics we talked about, which is start with the business problems. What are the problems?
Yes.
And
Do you have enough data to feed and work with AI?
yeah. How will loyalty, can't even speak probably, how will loyalty programs morph in the next few years, in your view? Because they're fundamental to a lot of what we've talked about.
Yeah. I think, as I mentioned before, I think some retailers haven't even started their loyalty journey. I think if you look at a lot of our competitors, I think there are not many that actually have loyalty within their platform. So they have their platform and they buy loyalty from the side and try to integrate it. But all our functionalities are loyalty is embedded. That's where we come from. So I think the starting point is getting all the retailers to understand that it is super important and invest in that functionalities and also resources in order to set a strategy. It needs to become a strategic agenda point.
And is there, in your view, one technology that is kind of at the moment under the radar or not well utilized that you think physical retailers should really start to focus on right now? Was that giving away too many secrets?
Yeah, I think, and that is not loyalty, but looking at, like, for example, retail media that I talked about before, is not applicable for everyone. But if you are a reseller of other brands, you're most likely suffering from thin margins. And at least in the Nordics, we have not come as far as US and UK. So what we're trying now to introduce is retail media. So reseller can actually sell ad space on their site. So if you're selling shoes, for example, you're selling Nike and Adidas, then you can, with our retail media product, you can start like a bidding process. So you're actually selling advertising on your site. So Nike might say, we're paying X amount of dollars in order to be ranked higher. If the consumer is searching for shoes, then it's like Google search and being paid search. So having that on site could actually boost both revenue and then profit, because it's 100% profit margin for a reseller. So those types of tricks will be needed for retailers in order to survive, because we all know it's a tough world out there, and retailers and resellers need to find different types of revenue streams.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay. We've covered quite a lot of ground, which is great. If you look ahead 5 years, I know that's hard. What, in your view, does success look like for a kind of a mid-market fashion brand using Voyado?
So as I mentioned before, and this is probably my famous last word, is that I think in the future, consumers will still want to have great product and great services. So I think if you stay true to that, then retailers will still have loyal customers. Because I think if you give that promise to the consumers that you're delivering great product and great consumers, then you should be able to have your loyal customers. So I think in this sort of crazy environment that we're in, I think it's really important for retailers to keep that promise to the consumers, that they are still going to provide that, no matter if it is online, offline, or wherever. And depending on who you are, you should get that experience to your consumers and stay true to your consumers.
And we've got probably quite a lot of listeners who may be potential clients, so they could be retailers in that B2B B2C space. What's the first small step they could take if they wanted to try and test Voyado's approach?
So it's not like you can actually try Voyado like a demo on site and then so you need actually to implement it, because so it is an investment. But I think if you want to start understanding more, it's take a meeting. You can call me, or you can call many people, great people at Voyado, to understand more of our product. But I think fundamentally understanding and setting a strategy on how to work with engaging your customers is the first step. And then I'm happy to explain how we could actually do that with our products, Elevate and Engage.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. We have covered a huge amount of ground. There's been some really great insight. And like I said to you before, the podcasts for me are really good because I tend to learn a huge amount. And I certainly have during the last hour. So thank you very much for your time. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.